Well, welcome everyone. Welcome for joining Success Perspectives, the weekly podcast with thought leaders and disruptors in the tech industry, covering all topics, customer success and go-to-market. We have some really interesting shows lined up. We've obviously done a few over the last few weeks, and this week is absolutely no exception. If you want to find out more about the upcoming shows, then go to ccoadvisor.com. I'll post that link up there a bit later. But I'm excited to share that joining me today, we have two exceptional leaders in the tech industry. Aakrit Prasad, the CEO of AptEdge, and Bobby Napiltonia, former executive at Salesforce and Twilio. Two incredible leaders, and certainly most people will know them if you were either at Salesforce or in the Bay Area. Our paths all crossed nearly 20 years ago when we were talking about the end of software at Salesforce. Well, today we're talking about the end of support tickets. AI is disrupting everything. And again, it wouldn't be a podcast if we didn't talk about AI. And so Aakrit and Bobby are going to talk about how they're using and leveraging AI to move beyond reactive support and deliver proactive, intelligent assistance to a variety of customers that delights customers. And again, sets us on this target for the end of support tickets. So I couldn't be more excited to go through this today. Aakrit, Bobby, it's really awesome to have you on the show. So thank you for taking the time. As always, as we go through, if you have any questions online and want to post them in the chat, we'll get to those. But why don't we just start off by some simple questions, by maybe starting with you, Aakrit, just to share a bit about your professional journey, kind of how you ended up in this role now, and kind of a little bit about your background, and then we'll move to Bobby.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds great. Thank you, Gary, and thank you for having me on the show. Excited to share more about how we're building AptEdge. But yeah, getting to my early background, I grew up in the Midwest. I was a software engineer by trade in my early life. I studied out in Chicago, worked in manufacturing, got recruited to join Salesforce back in 2012, 2013 as a staff engineer. And so I had kind of early exposure to what is it like, working at highly complex B2B enterprise software and building that software. And so for me, those early days at Salesforce were pretty transformative in understanding the way that we're solving problems here at AptEdge. But spent a few years at Salesforce running their scalability engineering, performance engineering practices and teams. Got later recruited to join a company called AppDynamics, which was building application monitoring for the whole enterprise, which was at that time particularly exciting to me because we were doing this at Salesforce. Here was an opportunity to go do this for the entire industry, and AppDynamics to me was the leading business here. Was with AppDynamics and when we scaled from about a 30 million ARR business over 200 million, leading up to Cisco buying the business right before the planned IPO. And a lot of the interesting challenges and pain points scaling AppDynamics was the inspiration to go build AptEdge. After AppDynamics exited to Cisco, was with them for a little while, left and joined an early stage company in the test automation space. It was a great journey with some amazing founders. We scaled the business from 1 to 15 million and ended up exiting as well. And then kind of looking back at some of these operating years, especially at these kind of working and serving B2B enterprises, I started to see how product updates and changes were leading to customer support escalations, retention challenges. So here to talk a little bit more about what we saw and how we supported our customers when we were scaling these companies for B2B enterprises.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, there's been so much change in the last decade or two. It's just, amazing to reflect back on that. Bobby, what about you? I mean, you and I have worked together at Salesforce pretty closely, and you've seen a lot as well. So tell me a bit about your background.
First and foremost, thanks for having me. As you know, every time we see an alumni, the memories that it brings back from the scar tissues and the wounds, just because we did change an industry forever. And in the most meaningful way that I think people underestimate what it took to actually achieve, how long that journey really was, and what we learned along that ropes. So I'm addicted to startups, 37 years. Salesforce, it was a funny story. Mark and I met each other. We launched our startups at the same conference, the demo conference. That's where we met. Unfortunately, 2001 hit, so I had my first failure, learned a lot there. Good news, we ended up open sourcing it. Today it runs on about 1 billion websites around the world. It's called JSON. and eventually joined Mark to build the App Exchange, which just passed $1 trillion. And that's probably the most unique one where we want to jump in, which is I was there for no software. I will be there for no applications. It is happening, and it's starting with the things that we're doing today called no tickets. I mean, think about the tickets you open. The same one to reset my password is the same one as that my nuclear power plant's going to blow. Tickets suck. They got to stop. And the only way we're going to do that is by leveraging AI to understand what's in the application. And when I met Aakrit, even though we worked together, a board member connected us, I saw immediately this was the fastest path for us to enter the enterprise in the most meaningful way to talk to CFOs about increasing profitability, because everyone hates support. I mean, it's the part that sucks. I could go on and talk about support forever. I realized back in the day where we had licenses, support was the gem of the company because you got 18% of the license cost. Guess what you got? You just got a paycheck. Today, it's not like that. Support's bundled in the cost, the price, the expectation. And that meant that we all did things like deflections. I mean, those are horrible words to say to a customer. Anyway, so I'm here today to hopefully help profess the message the world is changing. What role will you play? And are you going to be here or are you going to watch? Digitize or die is happening.
Yeah, it's a really very interesting time in our history again, and very few people get a chance to kind of go through this whole transformation multiple times. And I feel that there was the SaaS moment, and now, as you say, with AI, there's all these other opportunities as well, like as you say, the end of tickets. So tell me just briefly, could we maybe I don't know who wants to take this, but explain a bit about AptEdge, what it does, what it is, so that people can better understand what the product's aiming to do.
Yeah, I'm happy to kind of give a little bit of context on that, Gary. So, the idea behind AptEdge really came from noticing this pattern where in my past life working at AppDynamics, where actually I met my co-founder, Anthony, and we used to work really closely together. Anthony ran a lot of the core engineering while I was running product support operations with the teams. And we noticed this pattern where product changes and updates that we were driving to innovate quickly would disrupt our support escalation process. And disrupt our support team and lead to customer escalations and issues. And so we would find that, we roll out an update on a Wednesday, we change a configuration or remove a button, and the next morning we get 10,000 support tickets. And customers, saying, hey, why can't I export this data anymore? Or why is this configuration broken? And when we were selling to B2B enterprises, it was very complex because the support team on the front line that's trying to help our customers, it'd be very hard for them to figure out which customers, why is this customer impacted by this problem? What version of the product are they on? What were they trying to do in the product? But also trying to understand all the backend systems and information that they have to otherwise parse through when they're trying to help a customer. Trying to understand, is this issue that we're running into with, customer complaining about a configuration breaking, is it tied to an existing regression that our product team is working on? Is it tied to an incident we're talking about in our Slack or Teams? Do we have any workaround documentation? Are we talking about it in our community or LMS? And so we just felt this pain. And when we looked at breaking down the costs of the ticket, like how much did it cost us to support our customers and how do we become more efficient? We found that 95 to 98% of that cost was like labor costs. It was the time that we spent researching, understanding the customer's problem, getting on Zoom Teams meetings with them to get diagnostic insight. And then also researching all the internal systems, tools to get the best context, the best resolution, and then being able to present that in the most high quality response. And that was just a huge pain. And the consequence of that was that our resolution times were long. We had real customer retention, customer churn, risk, and impact. But on top of that, our support costs were scaling very exponentially high relative to our business. And that just made it harder for us to be efficient and move towards a profitable model. So this is really kind of the original idea why we wanted to build AptEdge, was an AI that can help the support service operations and the teams get ahead of challenges that are resulting from continuous product changes and updates, and be essentially a right hand to all of these support frontline teams that can deliver a better experience to customers in a world where products and changes to products and experiences are going to continue to happen more and more rapidly.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? Because if you think about what SaaS has enabled, obviously it's kind of created this acceleration, obviously in innovation in new products, in the way those products get delivered, those services get delivered. But it's also created this problem because you now have theoretically these islands of information. You mentioned a few of the different systems that may exist, and understanding how all those things interact and how you bring that together to build a better experience. We had John DeRocher on a few weeks ago talking about the importance of customer experience. And actually, Bobby, you mentioned something earlier about deflection. He was like, also super against that word. It's not about deflection. You need to solve the problem before it actually occurs. This idea of deflection sounds like you don't want to be involved, and you absolutely want to be involved with your clients in the right conversations. So it's interesting. We've kind of created this environment, perhaps ourselves, as we've grown. But I think now with AI, we're at the cusp of something really incredible, and I think AptEdge is right at the forefront of that.
It's interesting you should say the forefront. Most of the folks that we engage or talk to, seeing is believing. And it's like anything. I know you remember the first time we logged in and any one of us could demo Salesforce. Let me show you. We changed the language to Japanese. And they're like, Gary, you know Japanese? Like, no, but I know the system's so easy and simple to use that you can do that. And once we're able to show I can get an answer from anywhere, I can produce content from anything, knowledge articles can be created like that, people are blown away of how we can pull together the knowledge with the deep knowledge, intimacy, and understanding of the support flows.
Yeah. So before we go too deep on the product, because I do want to come back to how this impacts products and how this impacts experience. But obviously, and I've seen your products, it's pretty darn awesome. If anyone hasn't, we'll share the links out. People can follow up with you later to learn more. But can you maybe just explain some of because I think there's a lot of myth and unknown what AI really is and what it isn't. Most people know AI because they've heard of things like, we've heard of DeepSeek, or they've used ChatGPT and they've written a silly poem, or maybe written a letter. But of course, we all know there's so much more than that. So can you explain maybe a bit about AI, how it applies to your product? Maybe touch on agents, LLMs, co-pilots, because there's also, and maybe we can feed it into this bit, it's like, is it going to take my job? I mean, that's the other thing that is a bigger question around this. It's like, hang on a minute, how do I rationalize what I was doing yesterday? Now I've got this incredible tool. So I don't know who wants to take that. Can maybe explain a bit about the AI?
Yeah, I can do a quick pass, and I'd love to obviously keep this conversational because I think AI is such an evolving area and it's exciting. But I look at it as AI is here to uplift human potential, the way that we work, and there's so much more that we can deliver. For example, even when we were running support service operations at AppDynamics, we always had a backlog of support problems, right? So it wasn't like we had like all this extra time. Like we were extremely busy across our support, product, engineering, operations teams. And so if we had an AI technology that could have helped us resolve customer problems faster, customers are happier, but it's also up-leveling the potential of our team. They're being able to get more done. They're more proficient and efficient and happier. And so I look at AI as accelerating the opportunity that can unlock new areas of human potential that we probably haven't even imagined yet. So I think there's going to be tremendous more value that's going to be created. And I think it's less about there may be in the immediate term, like people might feel this fear of maybe this job is going away, but I think there's a more creative and exciting way to look at it, which is that there'll be new jobs and new areas of value that'll get unlocked and created that could never have been accessed because we just, we didn't have the potential and capability to get to that. So that's kind of my optimistic perspective on where we're going with AI, and I think we're just still scratching the surface. What I think is also really unique is AI is a technology. It's like I look at it as like it's no different than like back in 20 years ago we got Java, and 25 years back you could build things with Java. You can build things with AI. It's a technology. It's a solution. And so I think it's really important to think of how do you apply this technology for specific use cases. And so for us at AptEdge, we come from companies like AppDynamics, Cisco, Salesforce, B2B enterprises. So we always saw the pain of support at B2B enterprises, where you're getting problems like technical support issues, troubleshooting, configuration problems, integration, customization issues. I would say this is a very unique segment compared to like B2C enterprises and markets, where you see different kinds of problems like orders, refunds, exchanges, which are also a very exciting area for AI to tackle. But in our domain, this is the use cases we see. So we have looked at using AI to build very practical solutions that empower how the support service operations at B2B enterprises work, and all of the different use cases that they're otherwise burdened when they're trying to solve tickets and help customers. Our focus is to drive and provide more automation and efficiency around those processes. And that's kind of why we have this like no ticket movement as well, because we really believe like there's so much cost and time that's spent on solving tickets that really isn't about the ticket. The ticket is just a medium to document a problem, capture a problem. 98% of the work is the work you're doing to solve that ticket, which doesn't often have information that is captured in the ticket system or in the ticket. So we are really focused on going after that problem with AI, and that's where we're seeing amazing results with dozens of B2B enterprises as customers for us today.
Well, I definitely want to come on to some questions in a minute. Go, Bobby.
Yeah, Gary, real quick. So if you think about taking the job, it will take your job if you don't know how to live with AI, 100%. And our children will be different, but for you and I, this cohabitation will exist for the next decade for sure. And with robotics and all of these things, just because of where we are with that. But you and I have both run support departments, and we've both done one-on-ones after a product release. How do those employees feel month 1, day 27 of a new product release?
Yeah, exactly.
I could use the words with explicitives. It's horrible that product people release product that it's torture. When I ran support at Twilio, the millions of questions that came in because it was 3 lines of code, drop it in, you should be smart enough and easy, was not the case whatsoever. I saw support leaders cry. Like these are grown adults, because it's torturous when you're not set up correct. And I think that most people, unless you've worked it, owned it, or been in it, you don't understand the underbelly of support.
Yeah. They really are the kind of last stop when everything else hasn't worked. When something's been released too quickly, or the product doesn't work, or we never listened to the customer, or it wasn't tested properly, it then ends up in support. And obviously trying to get ahead of that is really, really critically important. And again, back to the point on AI, I think AI can play a big role in that. One of the questions, and this came up a few weeks ago as well, which I think is an important one to explore. Customers, from my conversations, have sometimes been a little bit reticent or concerned about things like security and privacy. I'd love to hear your perspectives on that as we talk about AI, because of course, if you think about many of the support cases up until now, depending on the industry, there could well be a lot of personal information in there. It could be, if it's a B2C, credit card information. Even if it's B2B, it could be financial information or personally identified. How do you kind of think about that with AptEdge and AI? How do you kind of train your models and continue them to learn all the time? How does all that work?
Yeah, this is a great question, Gary. And security compliance, that's going to continue to be top of mind for the whole industry as we advance AI use cases. The great thing for us is a third of our customers are security companies, data security companies. Mm-hmm. So we are, part of the reason we went there is, we come from the DNA of businesses like Cisco, where we worked before. Mm-hmm. Cisco has a large security practice. It's also one of our customers. And what we found was security companies have really complex B2B support problems and use cases, especially as you get to be a bigger business. And so that's how we landed with accounts there. But we had to go through security compliance processes and make sure that everything is really well wall-guarded and isolated and maintained according to best practice. And so I think it is a very fair and common area that teams are, every company is asking for AI. But there's a lot of opportunity where AI is coming in and helping navigate that. The way that we think about security with AI is we're also integrated. When we integrate with systems and data, we do it with very limited access. So we're only designing our AI to work for complex technical support scenarios and that support operations team at the B2B organizations we work with. So for us, because of the way that we've architected our system, we are very secure and compliant around the policies that matter for AI. And we're dynamically only looking at data that is relevant for the support operations team, not anything really that's outside of that. And it's also designed where you can dynamically upgrade and enhance the permissions of the AI systems that we have, so that you're really permission aware for what's important.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I want to delve more into the product itself just in a moment, but just going back to the kind of AI piece, I think one of the things that struck me about how you're using AI, there was a lot of when you demoed it a few weeks back, it was really around augmenting the existing support team. This is about making the support team more impactful. Do you want to just talk about that? Because I feel that's quite an important differentiation in terms of how you differentiate.
I think you hear this term deflection so much now, and it's been coined even before AI LLMs were a thing. It was like back to the kind of original chatbot era of like 2014. And it's unfortunate because I think it gets a bad light for the right reason in certain areas. Like for B2B software and B2B enterprises, we don't often find that the deflection approach has worked really well for companies if they haven't looked at a more proactive approach to empower their team first. And that's because the problems that you're seeing in B2B support and especially SaaS B2B support they're very much more complex. So, just trying to deflect the problem is not always the right way to go about it. And if your customer doesn't get the right help, sometimes they're frustrated enough with the deflection approach that they don't even reach out to the support team and they're already looking at a competitor. So I think it's really important to start with the team. And for us, that was always the approach. We always looked at empowering the frontline support operations and the backline support operations teams, giving them the tools and technologies to make their lives easier, better, allow them to be more efficient. And effectively, the way that we position our use cases and value is all about how do we drive better, higher quality, faster resolutions that your support service team can provide your customers to drive higher CSAT, to drive better customer retention, NDR, NRR improvements. We always looked at it from that perspective. And I think for us, it's go after the deflection, or we don't like to call it deflection, but go after self-service and empowering your customers with self-service. Once you've empowered your team, it's important to start with your team because your team can also guide and enhance the AI system they're using to help customers continue to get better and better experiences.
That's super interesting. I know that a lot of our listeners in support will no doubt empathize with your perspective on that, and I think it's definitely a really strong point.
Which one of your engineers said, "I can't wait to do level 1 support tickets this week"?
Exactly.
Or level 2 or level 3. How about like none? Ever.
Yeah.
So it's a torturous role for them that we see. We actually hear about 90 days in, we do a how's it working, how's it going with our customers, and we're blown away the actual users of its appreciation for how it's supplemented their work and made their job actually palatable and easier. Because you have to remember, in these roles, we also have high churn. And when you think about the ability for us to get that new person ramped and loaded, we were talking to a COO. It could take 6 months to ramp a support rep with a complex product that already cost you $189 just to take the support call, not to resolve it.
Yeah.
So now we're talking a $300-400 call. I mean, think about that. There's your profit.
Yeah.
But guess what? You get velocity of releases, and we got new innovations, and tomorrow there's a new release coming, and tomorrow there's a new release coming.
The train never ends. It just keeps dropping people off or dropping these issues off. So let's pivot to that. Let's talk about the customers. You've obviously have spoken to a lot of customers, and you've touched on some of the points already, but what are some of the things you're hearing from them around this need that you're solving for? What are some of the pains that you're experiencing or they're sharing with you?
I think one of the biggest things that we're constantly hearing is, and it kind of goes back to our what we call our founder market fit, is just coming from companies like AppDynamics, where we saw the kind of pain points that support teams face from faster product changes and innovative cycles coming through engineering. What we're finding is that the support service teams they're especially in B2B enterprises, they're heavily motivated and in two kind of strategic areas. One is, how do we continue to provide really high quality customer service to our customers, so we can improve and drive better retention and drive higher net dollar revenue growth, right? And so I think that's really, really important, especially for high margin businesses. And we're finding that, for a lot of companies, they're also looking at how do we lower our cost of support, because the changes in products are only accelerating. People are still, constantly innovating. There's a lot of competitive markets out there where there's real risk to losing your business to competitors. And so you have to keep innovation high. But what does that mean for the support and service team, right? You have to provide support service teams with technology that helps them combat the speed at which products and softwares are changing. And that's effectively how we thought about this problem and built AptEdge specifically for that. So I personally kind of faced this pain of changes in the product and process impacting our customers and our support operations and causing escalations and churn and retention and rising costs. And I've heard and met companies that it's really almost brought them down with the pain and challenges that came from this. And I think companies that don't adopt AI in this way are going to see challenges, because the ones that are going to stay ahead.
Yeah, I do think, obviously through the tighter fiscal situation that many companies have found themselves over the last 18 months, 2 years, there's definitely been this continual drive for efficiency, and obviously better performance, and a lot of scrutiny from various, from boards to ensure the companies are profitable and they don't need to raise more cash. Yet at the same time, they still want to be innovating and creating and differentiating themselves. So sometimes that can be kind of diametrically opposed, in the sense that you want to do a lot more with a lot less. You want to keep being ahead of the game, but you have less resources to do so. Yeah, and did you have any kind of examples of where you've spoken to customers that specifically have had those types of challenges you can share?
Almost all of our customers, when we first connect with them, this is one of the things that we really kind of are able to resonate and connect with them on, is that they're in businesses where innovation is in some ways the lifeblood of their business. They have to keep innovating and evolving the value they deliver. And innovation is not just like changing a product. It might be introducing new products, introducing new use cases. But on the support service side, the only way you can really support your customers is through a ticket. And as Bobby was sharing earlier, I mean, we joke about the world really runs on tickets, right? That's the way, that's the medium. And that medium hasn't really changed in 25 years. So if you think about all the innovation that's happened with product and engineering, kind of releasing updates and changes faster, it's obviously more true in the software space, but software is still leading the world, and it's still, still happening. Every company is still transforming in some ways as a software business. Support service teams have not been given technology to really to stay ahead of how fast changes are happening for the way that their customers experience their products.
It's like support watches silent films in black and white still. And the product team has AR, VR goggles that we don't even know. They're from the Noggin Goggin guide.
Yeah.
There's a big disconnect there, right? And so this is, I think, more true in B2B, and it's definitely more true in like the enterprise, because you've got like hundreds of more products. I mean, as bigger the business you are, the more complexity you'll have. And so what we see is that this pain just gets worse and worse, and it really hampers the company's ability to innovate. In fact, just at AppDynamics, we had situations where the product changes impacting and disrupting our support would lead to us not being able to innovate anymore on the product, because we were stuck with like the escalations that we were navigating. So it actually also then kind of impacts the ability to innovate more effectively. To Bobby's point, I mean, if support doesn't have the right technology and tooling that's purpose built for them and their use cases, they're not able to advance at the speed at which kind of engineering updates are coming out with the latest CI/CD approaches.
Yeah, totally. So why don't we jump in then? And sorry, Bobby, you were going to say something?
No, I was going to say the one thing that we're dancing around, and you maybe even heard, I think Benioff mentioned it last week, which is this is a labor replacement, right? And whether or not you had asked the question, are the humans worried? No, we're not going to take your job. We're going to make your job better and easier, more palatable, but we're going to allow you to scale, because you still have to grow a company, and you never get as many recs open for the correlation to growth percentage. I just really wanted to end on, it feels like we're really in salvation, because we know once we show this, people go, I need and want this now. Where do I get started?
Yeah. That shift, and again, that train has left the station. It's a case of making sure that everybody's on board. And I think there will be a change in role. Previous companies I've worked at, AI has not necessarily displaced people, but it's actually made them more productive. And as you mentioned earlier, allows them to do more higher value roles, which generally is better for everybody. It's better for the individuals, it's better for customers, and obviously, better for the company as well.
I also think, Gary, just to kind of add to what you're sharing earlier, I think there is, with the way the industry is advancing and AI technologies and solutions proliferating in the market, I think there's a real opportunity for support to be a bigger player towards customer retention, net dollar retention. It's not just like solving a problem. It's
totally
solve that problem really well, and build empathy and relations with the customer to drive more opportunity upstream. And a lot of the market generally is a lot more competitive than it's ever been in the past several decades. And so, because it's easy to build software and applications, right? And so because of that, I think support service has a much more critical role to play today than it ever did. But this just kind of goes back to empowering support service teams with the right technology and their customers with the right experiences, gives you a distinct advantage to win in your market and remain competitive. It's not just about the product innovation. It's how do you deliver on that through support service in an exceptional way.
Totally. So why don't we jump into a bit about how and what actually AptEdge does then? Obviously, it's AI, it's supporting the agent, but I think there's some really unique things that you're doing. And then as I think about, I'll say this affectionately to the product teams I've worked with in the past, but somewhere along that experience for the customer, they're probably calling in because of some product experience that wasn't as they expected. And so how do you close that loop? Because, customer experience, as we discussed a few weeks ago, is a multitude of things. And if, to your point, you just end tickets, that doesn't necessarily make products and everything better. So can you maybe just explain how AptEdge is addressing all of that? So
I also think,
question with a long answer.
To jump in, it's reimagining where your cab lives. Think about that statement. Why would you rather have for those of you who don't know, customer advisory board is the most important part for every company. Like get the feet on the street, know the word that matters. Anyway, Aakrit will weave that in, but I think it moves it from the marketing department closer to support and product, because if you really knew what your customers need, you would build it and never get the call, and you would grow infinitely because other customers need those same things.
Yeah. It's a great call out. That's a whole other podcast. Where should the cab live? I think that's always been something that most companies have at least mentally struggled with, even if, So go on anyway. So tell us about how AptEdge solves all these things.
You had me a bit on a tangent in my own mind there, because I do think I have a strong perspective on the cab as well. But we're very close to our customers on a regular basis. And anyways, maybe we'll say that for a different podcast. The way that we thought about the technology with AptEdge was always going into the specific workflows of these support engineers at B2B enterprises and mid-market firms. And we were looking to understand where do they spend a lot of their time, what leads to long resolutions, that leads to escalations, that leads to churn, right, and customer retention risk. And what we found was that if you take the life cycle of a ticket, right, and you kind of map it over time, you find that, and this is specifically for like our where we focus, which is B2B enterprise businesses, there's a good chunk of time that is around understanding the problem. What is the customer running into? What workflow are they executing in your product, or what information have they shared with you? Is there something they're attaching in the ticket as like a log or a file to look at, right? And so you have to comprehend their experience, what they were experiencing. And a lot of times this is done, but like a follow-up. A ticket comes in and you try to get on a call with the customer, or you're going back and forth in the case comments to understand the context of the problem they're running into. So that was one of the first things that we wanted to solve for, is how do we help better capture that context and bridge it to provide a really compelling insight around the problem. Based on that, just a little bit color there is that, AptEdge is built where we can look at like attachments and understand that as part of the insight. We actually understand your product. So we're able to understand how your product is built, your products and features. And so we have what we call product comprehension. We have understanding of your complex products so that we can create more intelligent insights around the problem that we can use to help a support engineer. Then the next phase is, once you understand this problem, how do you go and find the most accurate, best resolution quickly? And so we were finding that there's a lot of kind of research time spent with these support service teams kind of collaborating in Slack teams. They're going and looking up internal, external documents. They're often pinging product teams that are in Jira to see if there's a bug or enhancement related to this. And so that collaboration and context to capture is also a very time-consuming process. And you have to, it's not just like going into like, if everyone I'm sure here listening has used Slack, it's not easy to search in there and find anything. Right? There's a lot especially if you're a big company, you might have like hundreds of channels, and some of those channels are not put into support. So how do you contextualize that, and then contextualize it with respect to a specific product issue that a customers are putting a ticket on, right? And so it's a huge pain, and it's actually getting worse and worse, frankly, because products are changing more quickly. Support volume is kind of continuing to grow in accounts and teams. So what we looked at next was, how do we understand context from all these different like 10, 15, 20 systems that support service teams use, and apply that to finding the most accurate resolution as it relates to the problem that we understood from kind of the initial analysis our system did when a support problem came in. And then it's being able to help the support team get the most accurate answer out for a contextually relevant problem that's being reported, and dynamically turn that into knowledge. So that's kind of like the last leg of the ticket lifecycle, is normally like once you've solved a problem for a customer, capture that knowledge, because that could help somebody else. Maybe another customer runs into the same thing, and you might want it available as an external documentation, or you might want it available for your internal team to be able to reference more quickly instead of pinging someone on Slack waiting for a few days to hear back. And so we're also doing that last piece, which is we're dynamically turning solved problems into new knowledge, so that support service teams are able to evolve with their knowledge base and their learnings and practices at the speed at which product and engineering are delivering output from new products and changes that are leading to customer issues and support tickets.
Makes sense. I think there was a question that came in about, is this just another chatbot? Clearly, it's a lot more than a chatbot. I mean, it may allow you to communicate. However, that ability to bring information in from multiple sources and contextualize it, to me, seems like a real game changer. Because a lot of time, as you mentioned before, I think there's a lot of back and forth about understanding what the person was doing, what their adoption's like, what the usage, and yet you say you can bring all that information in, not just about what they've raised as a problem, but also their usage of the app and all this other data as well. Is that correct?
That's exactly it. And so, there's use cases where our system is able to, for example, understand product analytics and session context of what a customer is doing in a product, to then correlate that to the ticket that they reported, and use that insight to better understand, what was really the problem the customer is running into. Today, when a ticket comes in and you don't have that context, it might take 2-3 days into your resolution time to get time with the customer and get that context, right? So this is effectively how we're thinking about this problem is, what are the things that really slow support service teams down, lead to high cost per tickets, lead to long resolutions that impact CSAT and retention. And it's really building AI, applying AI in a very practical way to automate and augment scenarios like this that enhance how customer support service teams operate, knowledge management teams operate, but also we do also help end users. And so, well, we're not a chatbot, and I would say that's a very a common term now in the market with AI. But AptEdge is built primarily as a contextualized AI, which can understand what customers are doing in a product and in an experience, and it gives you contextualized help where we're being able to anticipate what you might be running into. For example, if there's an error on the page, we can detect that and help the customer navigate a workaround article in your LMS community based on the error that they're seeing in a software application, so that they don't have to go file a ticket and wait 5-10 days to get help. So we are providing self-service in a different way than a chatbot would, because of the way they've built the technology. But we built a lot of technology with AI around helping the support service teams on the back end as well accelerate the speed at which they can get the right answers to their customers.
I love the contextualization. It would be remiss of me with a career in success if I didn't ask for metrics. So can you share some kind of improvement? What metrics does AptEdge typically help drive better outcomes around, and maybe share some performance numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got several case studies on our website, aptedge.io. There's user stories up there with several of our enterprise clients. We work with dozens of enterprise clients that everyone would recognize their names and brands. They're some of the most amazing, reputable businesses. For certain customers like Sumo Logic, we work really closely with their team. We've been able to automate up to 90% of the labor work of solving tickets for them. And so they've seen tremendous ROI in how fast we can understand the insight of the problem a customer is reporting, find the most accurate resolution, and help them dynamically capture new knowledge and around that problem for potential new issues that could come in that can be solved even faster. Outside of that, we started working early with a few teams at Cisco, and one of the executives at Cisco joined another company called Automox in the data security space, brought us in within the first 2 weeks of him joining there because he saw the value we were delivering for his team at Cisco. And there, we saw the ability to, again, drive more automation around the ticket lifecycle process. which ultimately led to reducing your cost per ticket. And so support service teams, they measure these things. They know what is their cost per ticket, and it's very high in B2B enterprise segments. It's one of the highest. We've heard things like $1,000 a ticket as a cost per ticket in some cases, right? So just being able to automate, work around that, and bring that down is not just a huge win for the support team, but also the end customers and the entire business. There's profitability margin improvements that happen from that, from reducing cost here and driving more margin economics and profitability. So we are effectively seeing our ROI delivered around, just higher, being able to drive better customer retention and improve CSAT through faster resolutions using our product. That is also correlated to fewer escalations being reported by being able to provide faster resolutions. And then we're also seeing kind of the other lens, which is while we're delivering faster resolutions and lowering escalations and improving CSAT, you're also reducing your cost per ticket, which is effectively helping the entire business become more efficient and move towards profitability.
So I mentioned earlier about products. How does this make a better product in the long run? Because if you don't get to the kind of source of the challenges that you're facing, and every product team, again, as I mentioned earlier, has limited budget. It clearly can't do everything. It's all about prioritization, and often there's like how much do you innovate versus what bugs do we fix? How does the product team get involved in that? In all the great work or a great outcome or output of AptEdge, how does that process work? Can you maybe share that?
Yeah, this to me is one of the most exciting parts of kind of how we're innovating and where we're going. And as a former product person and leader in several companies, for me, it was always a huge pain trying to figure out what is support running into when we're doing product updates and changes. And we'd have to go and like correlate Zendesk reports and tickets with like bugs that we're fixing in Jira, with any product instrumentation and analytics data. And it's just, you weren't able to like really put it together in the right context to understand and make decisions quickly. And so with AptEdge, because we're able to understand all of this context and understand it with the perspective of how we're helping support service teams with unique problems that their customers are reporting, we can create really rich insights from this data. And now we're seeing a lot of product teams in our system getting visibility around, hey, I did a product update last week on this capability or this feature. Who are the customers that are being impacted? And what does that impact look like? And we can actually present that and capture that. And so we're really excited about that as a way to drive more cohesion between support, service, and product teams. But it also goes back to the earlier topic, Gary, we were talking about, where AI is not just here trying to replace jobs, it's up-leveling people. If we can up-level the amount of capacity we give back to a support service team, they can do more. Now they can collaborate more deeply with the product team. At AppDynamics, we didn't have a good way to do this. It was very challenging because the support service team was so busy solving support cases with a huge backlog that we weren't able to get that kind of rich strategic collaboration as frequently as we wanted. And I think AI will provide opportunities to do that and up-level kind of that support organization's importance and footprint in a company.
Yeah.
So think of a service that launched darkly, allowed a product manager to slowly bleed some things that they thought the customer might want. Now imagine if I see you smiling, imagine if you know what the customer needs and you've heard that in real time, you can affect real-time product development. To your point, it's not just that can I create the product quicker. If I can understand what makes them consume it faster, I can roll that in. So I believe, and it's interesting, we've reached out to some product leadership, the intimacy that we can connect the dots from support to how you make it could actually change the way products are made.
Yeah.
By the way, just to echo Bobby here, this is even more pertinent as we think about consumption products in the age of AI.
That's what I was going to say. Because if you're not burning gas, the car is going nowhere and no one makes money. And the only way the hyperscalers make money is when you burn gas.
Yeah. It's super interesting, isn't it? Again, I think companies the industry has grown very quickly with all these SaaS products. Innovation is quicker than ever, but if you don't have all the various teams aligned and you're delivering what the customer needs, you build product that customers don't want to use. And we've all seen examples of where that's happened or the product's not working. So how do you prioritize that? So this is potentially a really, really great way of getting much tighter alignment across these critical functions. So you're building things that customers really need in a way that they need them.
I also think, Gary, just to add, as we're wrapping up, the vertical focus is really important because for us, we focus on support service organizations at B2B mid-market enterprise businesses. Because of that, we can deliver really high degrees of automation and accuracy, and so that's helping us drive tremendous more value.
Yeah, it's super interesting because there's a number of different companies out there now. I won't mention any names, but you only have to start looking this up, where a lot of the success functions are moving under product or moving under engineering. And, I'm not adverse to that. I think, again, as anyone who knows me I famously say, everybody's in success and everybody's in sales. Okay. So you think about success, everyone's kind of in, it's important that product is front and center of everything, because if you don't build a great product, no one's going to buy it. And also, if it doesn't work, then no one's going to like it. So it sounds to me from what you said a moment ago that your ICP is currently still support and support leaders. Yeah. But I'm just wondering how long that's going to be. Are things going to change?
Well,
you're going to be talking more to product leaders. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, we're fortunate. We do see, we focus on initially working and landing with the support service organizations, because that's really, we wanted to make their lives better and build technology that's purpose-built for their workflows and their problem sets to help their customers. But what we've seen is, once we're in the organization with support, customer success and professional services and product management and knowledge management, a lot of these teams are quickly wanting to get access to our system, because they're wanting to better understand the data and information that we're using to help support service teams, because there's very practical applications of that for these other organizations that are adjacent to support. And so we actually have teams within all these other orgs in our product day to day, but we do initially focus on providing the highest ROI for support service, to technical support, frontline, backline support service teams. And that's because we've architected our product to deliver the most accurate outcome. It goes back to just how we think about our ability to understand the problem that a customer is reporting through a ticket, finding the most accurate resolution. And it really goes back to high fidelity data, the ability for us to understand that data, merge it in a way that delivers specific outcomes and ROI along the different areas of a support case lifecycle or support resolution process.
But I agree with you, Gary. What will we see collapse and convene together? And in a recent engagement that I did with a publicly traded company, we actually overhauled the company and collapsed pre-sales and post-sales support into one team, so there was no finger pointing. I know where right? Because sales will say we can do all this stuff, and it gets thrown over the transom, and those people are left to stay and pray it will work. Used to be the partners, but it's usually with the service. It's us, because I'm paying you. Yep. So what you're able to then see is stitching together success from the beginning, not to make the sale, but to make the customer successful, like you said.
Yeah.
I think those will be some big differentiators. Listen, how many emails do you read from an EBR and SDR? How about like 0? Ones I get are a joke. Hey, I see the great work you're doing at the University of Alabama. And I respond, F off, because you clearly don't know what you're doing. You should tell your boss you're wasting time and money. Sometimes I drop their investors a note going, this is how you spend my money if I was an LP in your fund. Really? The world has changed. AI is changing, not just go to market, but the way in which we build, service, and support customers. As Mark Andreessen said, software ate the world. AI is eating software.
Yeah. Well, that's a great point to maybe pivot to what do you see the future looks like? This is like a bit of a kind of open-ended question. I mean, there's a lot of, if you look at some of the great Goliaths like Salesforce that we all spent a lot of time and were grateful to be part of our careers. There's a big pivot there to agents. There's all this talk about SaaS is dead. I mean, that seems to me a bit dramatic, but as you think about maybe AptEdge and where you're heading and how this might look in 5 years, which seems like a long way away, but I just imagine everything's going to be very different in 5 years to where we are today, or maybe not. I don't know. What do you think?
Aakrit, maybe you could share what Sumo Logic is doing, because I think Gary, you're asking the right question. Where do leaders go, and how do you skate to where the puck is going? Is you usually have someone that's already out there, and we're blessed to have some of those customers. And maybe to your point, we can start like, who sees tomorrow today, and what are they doing? And then what's tomorrow look like for the people that if they survive, what will it be like?
Yeah, no one wants to be Kodak. Kodak must hate being referenced all the time in this scenario, but missing the wave. You got to jump on that surfboard. Aakrit?
Yeah, no, I think there's this is it's an exciting topic, and there's so much that one could speak to on this, but just to be concise, with Sumo Logic, for example, an amazing business, and it's similar in some ways to AppDynamics, which is what was really exciting to us working with the Sumo Logic team. We're familiar with kind of that product, that space, industry, and the way that we looked at providing value for this team was, solving for specific use cases using AI. So using our AI solution to solve for different use cases that are part of their kind of end-to-end workflow of solving support problems. And so by doing that, we're able to look at automating, really high degrees of work that otherwise suck up their time helping their customers. And that's now opening up a window for us to go closer to their customers. So when we're thinking about customer self-service and how do we empower customers, we're not orienting the technology in a way that, you would say chatbots were built, but we are looking at it very differently. We're looking at it from how do you deeply understand the context of what a customer is doing in a product, in an experience, and take that personalization with all the other learnings and data that is part of a support engineer workflow and bring that intelligence closer to the end customer so that the end customer can not only get faster resolutions, but it unlocks new areas of value and revenue and consumption for them. And so we're partnering with the Sumo Logic team to enhance their ability to deliver a lot of these outcomes for their customers more quickly. And it's been amazing. Sumo is one of the smartest leadership teams I've met in my career. They looked at everything before they looked at AptEdge. When they looked at AptEdge, they considered everything out there, Salesforce and all the other products. And they found that we were the best solution for them because we're tailored to their needs and built for their sort of complex technical support and product-oriented scenarios for what their business needs. And also really great alignment on the vision. So, I don't think, SaaS is, there's a lot of noise about like SaaS is dead. I think SaaS, there's real value in SaaS businesses that will kind of persist over the next few years. But the service as a software is a real thing, and it is happening. And AI agents is going to continue to be the frontier of how that's driven. But you have to get to like vertical specific areas where you're going deeper in the value that you deliver for end customers, for support service and specific organizations. And I think that's going to keep unlocking new areas of value to deliver that you never could have even thought about doing before.
Yeah, you touched on something earlier regarding the word proactive, or maybe I mentioned it in the opening. This idea that you can solve a problem before it's even a problem.
Yeah.
That is it's mind-blowing, but that's certainly
How about we give you the
trajectory I
correct
think you're
answer?
on.
We give you the correct answer because we see the math problem you're working on.
Yeah, totally. Or you just solve it,
Yeah, just drop this in, right?
Yeah.
No new math.
Yeah. It really is interesting. And I think, as we discussed as well, there's continual pivot to reorganizing the human workforce to support these new agents and deliver a better customer experience. We're just at the cusp of that now. And so whether it's the end of SaaS, it's certainly, I think, going to be maybe not the end, but certainly a transformation of organization and technology with products like AptEdge really at the forefront.
Yeah, we're super excited about where the future is going here. And I think for us, the way that we solved and thought about solving this problem from day one, LLMs and AI technology has been a huge catalyst for us and allowing us to innovate on kind of the application layer and the delivery layer of our solution. And this is kind of to what Bobby and I were kind of riffing on earlier here is being able to anticipate a customer problem is really powerful, right? Because if you're on the other side helping a support service organization and support team member solve a complex issue, and you can take that learning and now bring it closer to another customer that might run into that and help them solve it faster so they don't have to submit a ticket and go through that kind of laborious process. There's real value there in unlocking a faster potential for your customers, which in a economy that moves more to consumption is going to be way better because your customers can now consume your product a lot more. They're not blocked and waiting. So we do kind of just fundamentally believe like at least for our segment of the market where we focus, like ticket systems and ticket workflows don't cut it. And that's why companies are looking for solutions. And companies like Sumo Logic, had they not found us, they were going to try to build a lot of this, which would have taken time and money because they didn't know who we were.
Yeah. Well, super interesting time. We're coming up on time, talking of time. But I just want to say a massive thank you to both of you, and congratulations on what you're accomplishing here. I think you really are defining this function, this industry, and you're going to be part of that. This incredible transformation the world's going through with AI and SaaS and support. So we will share out your contact details if people want to see a demo of the product or want to follow up with you. I think that would be good for people. Any closing comments, Bobby or Aakrit? I think we covered quite a bit. You're on mute there, Bobby.
Thank you for your leadership, your insights, and your time today. I think those were priceless. And I think people underestimate when folks like you or I want to share a story. We're here from a grandfatherly-like place. I'm not here telling you how to raise your kids. I'm telling you that if you don't raise your kids right, bad stuff's happening.
Yep.
It's just a fact. So thanks for giving this opportunity to share some war stories and ways in which we're here to help people move the industry forward.
Yeah, and just thank you, Gary. Really appreciate it. I think this is great. One of my biggest learnings in kind of the past 2 years is that education awareness is the number one thing that really matters right now in the age of AI. There's a lot of kind of talk around AI and solutions, and I think there's just not enough education awareness of what's really practical and what works and what doesn't work. And so if you think about AI, I think just think of it as a tool. Like, don't think of it as like this end all be all. Like, it's a tool just like language or Java, or like it's a tool to build things. And you have to make sure that the thing that you're using AI for is built for what matters for your business and your needs. And then you will get real ROI and real value from it.
Yeah. Very exciting times, very interesting perspective. And Bobby and Aakrit, I really appreciate you being on here and sharing this today. As you say, it's all about knowledge. It's all about sharing. And that's obviously what we're trying to do through this podcast. So thank you both. I want to just thank everybody that's watching this podcast. I appreciate you all. If you've got any feedback, please drop it in the link or reach out to me, Bobby or Aakrit, and we will get back to you. But have a great rest of your day and enjoy your week.
Thank you, Gary.
Bye, everybody.
Bye now.